Hello and welcome to Berlin, Germany and week 7 of LEC Summer. The sun is shining and we are approaching the last hurdle on the road to playoffs. And no team is safe, make no mistake, from elimination. We'll give you all of the latest updates in today's Ready Check. But first of all, hello, been a while, nice to see you. Obviously, this is all pretend. I've seen these guys for a couple of hours now. We've done all this already, but hi guys.
This isn't scripted at all. It's fine. Yeah, it's been great having you back on the show.
How are you finding the dangle, Ender?
I'm liking the dangle here.
We can't get a close-up. Can I walk towards the camera? Am I breaking the rules?
Yeah,
me and Ender are doing.
Be able to see.
We're doing dangly earrings today.
Yeah, we're very cool. We're very cool.
You guys haven't seen it yet, but Dracos and Ender are wearing the exact same suit. I'm pretty sure that they're just sharing it throughout the course of the show.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are looking radiant as ever, Frosk. I mean, we have to. I mean, we may be looking cool with the earrings. Another fantastic submission to the Vogue front page from yourself today. But why don't we focus on the video game? That is why we stand here. And last time I was here, you guys couldn't stop beefing up G2 and Fnatic, dominating the LEC as usual, I assume. And I turn around. Oh no, 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 no.
Who's gonna tell him?
Okay. So clearly, G2 in fact not doing so hot this time around. But I've got good news: Mad Lions and Rogue.
Okay, so that does look like something. So you guys were kind of planting seeds when I was here last. We did some PGLs, a Ready Check, where it was all kind of, you know, the rookie circle jerk of like, guys, look, the new blood, they're all here. You know, the new blood was arriving, and it seems like the new blood have arrived on the standings as well.
Yeah, Mad Lions and Rogue are the cool kids now. You know, at the start of the split, you know, when you were like, yeah, Fnatic, G2, they'll bounce back eventually. But now, forget those guys. Mad Lions and Rogue have proven week on week that they are our two best teams in the league. They do it in very different styles. Rogue, the more consistent, you know, grind you out sort of team, whereas Mad Lions throwing fights at you left, right, and center. Cool. Two very interesting and exciting teams in their own right.
I will say that with the small caveat, though, that while they are the best regular season teams right now, they still have yet to prove themselves in terms of lifting a crown in the actual title. So I am psyched about Mad Lions and Rogue, but it has to happen in a best of 5, and it has to happen in a final still. Okay,
so we'll come back to the Mad Lions and Rogue, because I have so many questions as to how they got here and a bit more about that style thing. I'm going to be poking and prodding you later. But for now, let's actually focus on this G2 Fnatic squad. I'm seeing 6-7, Fnatic just above them. But clearly, something is amiss, awry, in these camps.
So I've been using a lot of the language of the sleeping giants, because they're not listening to us. The teams keep saying G2 and Fnatic. They're still teams that need to respect. Origin's name gets thrown in there as well. And for me, Fnatic have woken up. They kind of had a shock to the system, the fans definitely coming after them, and they pulled out the Pyke and the Jhin. Looked like a completely different team, and we finally saw probably the strongest iteration of Fnatic that we've seen in summer. G2 are not in the same camp.
Yeah, well, Fnatic have fixed, you know, a lot of their individual players. They have shown up. G2, it still feels like Caps is dragging his entire team through the mud to try and find wins. And they were able to turn things around against Rogue last week, but I still don't, like, I have some faith restored in Fnatic. G2 still have a lot left to prove for me.
I think that's kind of like the concern. When you look at a team like Fnatic, you're like, okay, this player's finally playing well, this guy's stepping up, I love what they're doing with champions. Like, when you look at GT, it's like, did Caps hard carry 1v9? If the answer is yes, maybe G2 win. If the answer is no, then no one else is really showing up. Now,
here comes a bit of a risk here. I'm going to try and use some league knowledge here. Now, week 7, there are 8 weeks in the league, are there not?
Yes.
And now, that's the majority of their games have been played, have they not? So
correct.
I would imagine with the whole EU's greater than an A thing, we've got an extra spot at Worlds thing, I assume Mad Lions and Rogue must be safe soon, oder? Or maybe not. That's German. Don't know why I'm getting German on you. But yeah, they're getting close to Worlds or not.
Yes, they are. They are, because with our new playoff format, basically the way it works is that we don't have a regional gauntlet anymore for that extra seed. It's just your playoff placement at the end of this season here. So Mad Lions and Rogue, if you finish top 2, you're putting yourselves in a phenomenal position to make top 4. You just got to win like 1 series, and then you're going to be golden.
And I believe, I'll double check on stats, I'm sure someone will ping in my ear, but if Mad Lions finish 1st in the group, I think that they auto-qualify for Worlds, because the lowest they can place is 4th.
Yeah. So almost 1 win away, touching distance for the rookies to convert. And outside of that, I cast my eyes down the list, a team at the bottom of it. But are they the worst team? Sjokz and Gilius. You guys have been kind of, you know, they have been the one that's been poked and prodded throughout the season.
This is finally where the analysts actually come in. Most of the time, the scoreboard does a lot of our work for us, but just like, oh yeah, the top teams, Mad Lions, Rogue up there. But no, Sjokz are not the worst team in the league. I think they definitively proved that when they took down Misfits, and they get another opportunity to show, no, we're actually a middle of the pack team when they face Excel later today. So I'm actually super high on Schalke because of the individual performers that are stepping up.
And a team that we were looking at as if Schalke aren't the worst, then who actually is the worst? Misfits has got to be a team that you're looking at. They have looked, quite frankly, awful this split. They have not hit the bar that we were expecting them after their spring split performance. And that's why today, this weekend, they're going to be bringing Denick back into the bottom lane, which is supposed to try and reinvigorate this lineup because he was so good last split.
Supposed to reinvigorate in your mind? Let's speculate, yes or no?
Well, I had a chat with Amazing this week, and he basically talked about how DOS was selected because he was stronger and more dominant in the lane phase, and they really missed Denick's shot calling. So obviously, the team cohesion, the macro calls, for me, is what I've been missing from Misfits. So by putting Denick back in the roster, hopefully they get another strong voice to make them more cohesive on the Rift.
Okay, fantastic. And now in the next 2 weeks, anyone can be the difference between playoffs and elimination. All 5 players taking to their seats. But game changers themselves. And have you got any names you want to throw into the hat?
I've got 3 names for you.
Oh, I bet
Alex.
you do.
I'll get that one straight for you. I think each team has a number of different players you're going to look at. But again, 3 that stand out to me. Let's start with Excel's AD carry, Patrick, because he's been the definition of consistency. And across a split with struggling solo lanes, he has never been needed more. No matter what champion he has played or what situation he's been thrown into, Patrick has delivered time and time again. So as we get closer to the finish line and all of Excel ramps up behind him, Patrick must continue to be the rock for this Excel lineup. And while this week will be easier for Excel, the real challenge comes in week 8 when he faces Reckless, Upset, and Perks back to back to back. Next on the list is a man who functions less like a rock and more like an assault rifle. When you think SK, you think Crown Shot, you think Crowny. While SK currently hold 3rd place, the last 2 weeks are going to be a gauntlet of top teams trying to tear them down. Their last 4 games are versus Rogue, OG, G2, and Fnatic. So for Crown Shot, every game needs to look like his match against the Mad Lions. Every time he sets foot on the Rift, it has to be a masterclass on mechanics and execution. Crown Shot believes he can be the best, and this is his chance to prove it. Finally, I want to talk about Malitza. Now, statistically, this guy isn't the best mid laner in the league, but when you watch us play, you might see what I see. Carry potential, the X factor, and 100 different other ways to say he's a pretty clutch guy. We've seen Malitza shine brightest on Azir, but to carry Vitality, Malitza will have to show us more than a one-off carry game. He needs to show a level of consistency and excellence we never expect from rookie mid laners. It's a big burden to be certain, but I believe Malitza can be the one to bear it.
It's a big burden to be certain.
Yeah.
You write that one yourself?
No, I didn't write that. Draco's right. I just dressed up as him, so they're like, hey, you got to read the script.
Yeah, no, you definitely. We have to decide who pulled it off better once we get Dracos on screen.
Oh, I can't wait for that Twitter poll.
Yeah, can we do one of those majiggies where it has percentages? I like that. We'll see. We can see them battle in real time. Yeah.
Twitch chat, you guys got my back, right?
Oh, I heard you in Twitch chat. I've got a really weird relationship.
A really solid relationship, founded on mutual trust and understanding.
Let me help us right now. Okay, if we look at the standings, you just talked about 3 teams that were competing for kind of that last playoff ticket spot in the Excel, SK, and Vitality. And I think right now, the actual conversation should be, is it SK, who Excel do hold the 2 head-to-head over, or is it Excel that will grab that last spot? Ender?
I really like Excel's chances. Right now, it's just 1 game separating them, but I feel like the momentum they have behind them and just knowing, I was talking about Patrick. Patrick will show up every single game, and I think that's what Excel need to make it into playoffs. Now, they need to develop more if they want to make it further than that, but for right now, Patrick is going to get them in.
So Patrick has to be the star and stop living under the rock. It's a whole SpongeBob universe thing you've got going on there. I got it. Understood. Frost, please carry on talking.
He is, actually. I was just going to say, and you talked about kind of strength of schedule. We saw some of the huge opponents that SK have kind of left in the bag. Now, Excel also do have a very packed week 8, which is why this week in particular is so important for them. Schalke and Misfits. This is kind of the make or break week for Excel, who have never made LEC playoffs, the only team not to do so.
Oh, and that would be quite the shadow on your back. The only team not to pick up a playoff spot yet, and now so close to the battle for it. Week 7 commencing in just a moment. But first, we have to address the change coming into the 7th week, and that is, of course, the patch into 10.15. most people would be sane and call it 10-15. We'll do that instead. But will it make a difference? Let's have a little look at the Magic screen. And already I'm seeing a couple of fan favorites up in that buffed column. Shen coming back. Happy to see that.
Yeah, I'm actually a big Shen fan, and I think Shen has been consistently buffed time and time again. Now, the thing is the general ecosystem won't actually change that much in terms of the meta. Instead, what you're going to see is some of these fringe niche picks that have had continuous buffs, like the Shen, maybe like a Caitlyn.
Yeah, see, that's what I was going to say. Like, where's Caitlyn up here? It's the secret LEC doesn't want to tell you about. They're going to distract you with the Shen gameplay and Fnatic of past. But what you are seeing right now, of course, we do want to highlight that Shen is a pick that not only has been around, you know, our league for a long time, it's been a big-time European pick. It's been a signature pick for a team like Fnatic, both top lane and in the support position. So, hey, maybe we'll see them pull something out like that, because Frosk, as you were saying, Shen is looking a lot stronger.
Yeah, and reminder, champions like Twisted Fate, Nocturne, both champions that are also in the meta, Kha'Zix as well, running that submarine-style composition. Shen really empowers and makes those champions more viable, so do not be surprised to see a friendly neighborhood ninja in the top lane, possibly even support.
Yeah, I also want to say with Aphelios getting nerfed one more time, we're looking at other bot lane champions.
Caitlyn.
Caitlyn has to be the one. I think, like, Caitlyn, you see small stats changes. They're actually big. Trust me, it's huge. Go play her. She's going to be strong. But I also think it's interesting seeing the Spell Thief's Edge getting buffed as well, because what is Caitlyn like in bot lane? She loves mages down there that can help her push, destroy turret plates, all this stuff. So maybe we see some more interesting pairings.
Have you ever had more of a hellish experience than a Caitlyn Karma or a Caitlyn Morgana lane?
Oh, with a Spell Thief said, ooh.
Okay, fair.
All right, well, that's a win for Ender and a rare one at that. But have you got your win in the bag for your Super Fantasy? That's the question I'm asking, because if you haven't, 70,000 players have and have already created their team and are fighting to become the very best manager in Europe. So be sure to join them today. It's really easy. And by the way, if you haven't already, Gilius might be the one. He had 18 kills over 2 games and was the best scoring jungler by far. So throw him in your squad and let's hope that God Gilius strikes again. From higher powers to our first game, 2 teams that are not looking so hot right now are G2 and Fnatic, and tomorrow they face off in our Alienware match of the week.
For years, European League of Legends has been about Fnatic and G2. They've carried European hopes and dreams across countless international tournaments. Back-to-back World Finals, an MSI trophy. This is what peak League of Legends looked like. One of these teams has always dominated domestically, but this summer has been different.
Reckless tries to dive in the exhaust, but here's the hero's entrance, and Reckless has to cleanse the QSS and try and get out of there, but he's going to be the last one standing as Reckless versus the world.
I think the Fnatic look pretty bad right now, and they have a lot of work to be done to be able to challenge the top spots once again.
Everyone in the team wants to be the guy that basically carries us out of this slump and into playoffs. I think it's just about like how you work together, and that's what we have to realize, and that's what we have to work on.
Either we're gonna stomp enemies or we're gonna look like clowns.
Look at that damage, that's what you want from your Rekt, and it's finally paying off. Reckless running for the hills, and Fnatic gift wrapping a Baron just like that. Flash across the board, one that goes forward, hurts with the crescendo, with the clean roam, gets hooked! He's just too far forward, there's going to put some damage over to the dreams, but the Emperor survived from Abadage!
My faith in G2 is like rapidly declining.
Right now we're getting humbled a bit. We're like in the middle of the pack, so now we're like, can't really be cocky, you know?
Comes out that hits inspired, you can burst it, you can burst it, you can burst it right now, Caps has to do it! Oh, Caps gets it! The top of fate, the combo!
I don't really think much about not making playoffs. We are a strong enough team that should never happen.
I'm just honestly tired of losing to G2. It feels like it hurts more than it should. I wish in a way it was just another loss and I could move on with my life, but against G2 it just always hurts too much. Anything but winning this split would be unacceptable for me.
They're basically the only remaining rivalry in all the major regions. So many teams have fallen off or they fail to live up to the hype and continue to meet each other. But G2 and Fnatic is almost a surety to always be in the finals.
Fnatic and G2 just had the wrong approach coming into the split based on our experience at the finals. I think it's time for us to like recalibrate and try to get into the right direction from here.
It's no longer just about G2 versus Fnatic. Their rivalry eclipsed by something more crucial, making it to playoffs. No crowds to cheer them on, no energy and passion to pull from but their own. Now the clock is ticking, and they've started to return to form. But with 5 games left, it would be too little, too late.
We were kind of trying out a bunch of different things, and it didn't really work out too well for us. We just need to find the right champions for us, and we need to find the right playstyle.
Oh no, nothing left for the Aphelios. Shut down, taken out, give him the triple, give him the quadra perks, an absolute monster.
Curses for Origin, you come to the first on the menu. He's sliding those shots around the Alpha. Still coming in from Finn Larson, almost taken out by Jankos. The Dawning Shadow shut down by G2.
Fnatic pushing forward, Fnatic, are you kidding me? They're crushing through the fight. It's all eyes on Bennett. He's locked up. Custom blows are too much for him to deal with. The triple kill for Nemesis. Hell of a rough early game, but what a turnaround for the boy in the mid.
The stakes are high. No playoffs, no worlds. Spring success will not carry your summer this time. Everything comes down to these final matches. Will Fnatic finally overcome their own demons? Can G2 focus their efforts and find the form that brought them to the top of the table time after time? For these heroes, there is no way around each other. One must win, one must fall.
Ooh, well, that would certainly get the blood pumping, and that is, of course, your Alienware match of the week, G2 Fnatic. It's often a highlight, but rarely with stakes quite as apparent as this. I mean,
well, very different stakes. Usually it's who's the best team in the LEC, right? But no, right now it's a little bit more grim, a little bit more dire for these teams, as Drake was sort of saying in the video. Like, these teams are sort of on the brink, G2 especially, after Fnatic have picked themselves up in recent days. But this is a matchup where I feel like Fnatic have, again, another chance to be like, hey, we're pushing ourselves up to the top. And G2 are just like, hey, we're still here. We're still a decent team.
But that's the thing. Remember when we last said that and what happened to Fnatic in the finals when G2 then just turned around and 0-3, like 3-0'd them?
Sure.
This is, like, I totally get it. Yes, Fnatic should be, again, the favorites here. But for whatever reason, G2 have just a mental edge over Fnatic. And every time these teams run into each other, Fnatic just bounce off and fall flat on their face.
No, absolutely. And it is something that I've been kind of aware of on the periphery of in more than just League of Legends. It seems like all of the deadies, the kind of the kings of the respective realms, both League and in Counter-Strike, we're seeing big names fall off. There's words of burnout. There's words of a lack of motivation, which gets a lot of people quite, agitated. Of course, understandably, from a fandom perspective, there is no difference. The same games being played, the same opponents being played, but there is a dialogue. I don't know if you guys have touched on it in Counter-Strike and League.
No, I think it's a very real difference in that it's not under the same spotlight. It's not feeding off the energy of the crowd. And I know in talking with players, they say that, you know, if this was on stage, if you could feel that energy, you would probably have a very different performance. But ultimately, this is the hand that we've been dealt. And so everyone has to play under the same parameters. But I do agree with you that I think it does hurt our bigger teams, specifically like the Fnatics and the G2s.
Yeah, and it couldn't be more comfortable for the contrary to that. If you're a rookie, you're playing your LEC games like you did when you were on the come up.
You got, like,
so I can understand. I get the conversation, I really do. But we'll move the conversation on for now, because now I want to head to the schedule. We're kicking off week 7 of LEC Summer, and every single game has playoff implications.
Yeah, I mean, today, I feel like there's so many good games, but I'm really excited to see what Misfits look like with Denik back in the roster. People have been asking for this for over, like, months now. Where is Denik? How can he change the team? And I will see him and Razork, how they can fare up against this SK roster.
And a reminder, also the Schalke versus Excel game. We kind of talked briefly at top of show what the stakes are here, but Schalke do technically have a miracle chance to try to make a miracle playoff run, and Excel, this is the most important week for them.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, let's not forget about Fnatic versus Rogue. I have absolutely no doubt that that is going to be a banger. Last week, he was unstoppable, and today, Gilius is looking to lead Schalke to another win. This is what he had to say earlier today.
Thank you very much, Machine. I'm here with Gilius, aka God Gilius, as some like to call him, who has just come off a fantastic week with Schalke 04, 2-0. Now, Gilius, first up, an easy question. How are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great. Very excited to play this weekend. And yeah, everything is going good.
I mean, it looks like it. Anyone can see that since you have been playing for Schalke these last couple of weeks, things have just been going extremely good for you, getting those first wins on the board. What do you think from your perspective it is that you are bringing to the squad specifically that is making them finally get those wins on the board?
I think what I bring to the team is the early game aggression and being willing to do a lot of plays in the early game. I think a lot of losses in the start came from just not being proactive enough and just being too passive. So I think that's what I bring to the team.
That's also reflected when you look at the games in your stats, of course, your kill participation at 15 minutes, your first blood percentage, but a game is not just the early game. And I've noticed that then also, once you guys get through that early game, you're quite aggressive and you just keep going for your goals in the mid game to make sure you can get those wins. Would you say that in connection to your early game prowess, you're also delivering a bit of shot calling to help the team in those later stages, or is that then more something that they were already comfortable with?
I think they were already kind of comfortable with it. I can definitely help with the shot calling, but it's mostly Otto Amner making a lot of good calls. Yeah, it's just getting to that point and being ahead, and then Otto Amner takes over.
Mm-hmm. Now, when it comes to the situation of you in the team, as far as I remember correctly, you were just stepping in because it was necessary for 1 week, but now we've seen that you've stuck around. Where do you think the trust comes from the organization to keep fielding you?
I would say it's like I've been working very hard in the summer split, putting a lot of time into solo queue and just spending time with my team. And also, the scrim results were very good with me when Lurox was sick, so it kind of made sense to just let me keep playing. And yeah, I think the team is just happy with me right now, so that's why I'm still playing.
Is there a difference in the way you've approached kind of being in a team environment as you have in the years past? Because we have seen, of course, instances where you come in as this super sub and then you just kind of disappear at the same vein. I don't mean to put it that bluntly, but that has happened. Yeah. Have you seen a change within yourself in that regard?
This is like the first time that I'm in an office structure. Like before that, I've always been in a gaming house with my teams and being like living neck to neck with them, you know. And now it's more like your free time is like split from your work time. So that has helped me a lot. And yeah, I mean, I just get along very well with both the academy team and the main team, and we're all just a big family here. So.
All right, great stuff.
I don't know.
And you're doing great, and it looks like it's paying off. I got the cue that I need to sign off, but I do quickly want to know what you think about your opponents this week. As said, you need to keep winning. It's OG and Excel. What do you think about those opponents?
Yeah, like it's definitely gonna be tough games because they will both be sweating to make playoffs themselves. But I believe in a 2-0 into the 3-0 in the Super Week, and Schalke making playoffs.
All right, there we go. Thank you so much, Gilius. The best of luck this weekend. And back over to the machine.
Well, I mean, there's so many things to start talking about. First things first, it feels weird to have Sjokz throwing to me. We're on the same show. The crossover is hard for me to process, as I'm sure it is for you guys. But yes, temporarily stealing Sjokz's seat, but having a whole lot of fun doing it. Now, Gilius, he did just give us a whole lot of insight. The super sub becoming a whole lot more. Now, ooh. Don't do that, Alex.
Don't kick over the water bottle.
Oh, there's water everywhere. Hydration is important, by the way. 2 liters a day. I bet you haven't.
Minutes and you're already breaking things.
I know. I really am an absolute pigsty. But guys, I was supposed to be telling you something, and that is that he is the best player in week 6.
Yeah,
statistically. I was dramatic pause.
Also the most hydrated player, clearly.
I would hope so.
With what his plays looked like on the Rift, because the man has been all over the Schalke early game.
I thought you were going to say he was thirsty on the Where are you going?
No, that's you, Frosk.
Technically true. No, Gilius has been absolutely on fire right now. I think specifically on champions like his Lee Sin, which is now getting perma-banned away from him. Watch out for that one. I don't think Excel are going to let it through. His Nocturne as well as his Cosmic. I think the meta is suiting him really nicely, and it feels like Gilius just has confidence to pull the trigger, and that's what Schalke have needed.
They've needed it for so long because their early games in the past were quiet. They were dead. Nothing was happening. We were just waiting for this team to eventually fall over and lose. And Gilius has brought this new sign of life, and it's been contagious around his team because you see him pairing up with Abadage, moving and diving on side lanes. Dreams is also playing out of his mind. The entire Schalke team seemed to have leveled up around his early performance.
And again, I don't want to take anything away from Gilius. I think he deserves a ton of praise right now. He's really breathed kind of new life into this roster, but Dreams is so underrated. Like, people talk about Vander all the time, and do not get me wrong, Vander is so good, but Vander is not underrated if everyone is always talking about how underrated Vander is. Vander is very good. You know who no one talks about? Dreams. Dreams is so good. His Nautilus performance was amazing. And so I think if you're a Schalke fan, you need Gilius on a hard carry champion, like the Nocturnes, the Lee Sins, the Kha'Zix, and you need Dreams on Nautilus. And if you get that, that's like, that's the beautiful, beautiful position.
Those are your building blocks for the, what did they have to do again? He said it in the interview, he has to go 2-0 this week, and then Super Week 3-0 to get to playoffs.
Easy.
Yeah, I mean, not the word I would have chosen, but you could say that if you want.
For a god, maybe.
Yeah, oh god, Gilius certainly going to have to carry them across the finish line. But Schalke not looking like the worst, but let's think about their opponent. It's XL. I used to hype these boys up. I was sipping, I was sipping tea and crumpets. I don't sip crumpets. This is how you sip tea. Froskurinn, pay attention. That's how they do it in these Berlin hipster cafes these days. But for now, you can see some gameplay on the screens. And the boys from XL, a bit of a resurgence, Fender.
Yeah, the start of the split was much slower for them, right? They had to face a lot of big names at the start, but they are 6-3 in their last 9 games, and they continue to show up. Patrick, the man that cannot be forgotten on this team. Every single match, he is playing out of his mind. He is solo carrying this team in so many of their games, and it's the fact that he is so reliable is why me, including a lot of other analysts, are thinking, hey, this team could legitimately be a playoffs threat.
And again, reminder that XL currently hold the spot as well as the head-to-head over SK. So if they end on the same scoreline, XL would automatically get the spot. Back to XL's identity and playstyle, yes, we've always talked about how Patrick is a rock for this team. He still has to be on perfect form if XL are going to carry, because execution is their biggest problem. The rest of the team is not up to the same level of performance, and it comes with things like missed skill shots, botched dives, and I do like what Coach Youngbuck is doing. I think the draft strategy behind XL is really fun. I think there's very clear win conditions there, but sometimes it's a little bit overcomplicated, and I think that's where his team runs into trouble.
And I think when you look at some of their champion pools, like things are a little bit wonky, right? Like Kryze plays a lot of these carry top laners, a lot of these ranged mages as well. Like it's a little bit unorthodox, but at the same time, like we have seen Kryze now have a pretty solid week last week. And I don't want to say like all the problems are gone, they're going to be fine now, but now that we have seen the top end of some of these players, you could say if you can line those up together in a solid week together, the pieces connect. You get
I am so tired of that kind of if the stars align dialogue for the middle of the pack teams, you know, like, because that does tend to be the only difference maker.
Forget the other stars, it's all Patrick.
Okay, it's all Patrick and his rock and whatever SpongeBob references I can think of. Frosk, why don't you give us some meat and potatoes to chew into before the match?
So Ender was telling me yesterday this idea about where the tank has to be on the team. And obviously, we'll talk about that later on today. I don't want to like give away all your points, but specifically in looking at XL, you just talked about how Kryze is more of an AP top lane player, and that often means that they don't have the hard engage on their top laner. So Kadril is really reliant on Volibear and really reliant on Set. That also means that Torre is super reliant on Rakan and super reliant on Nautilus and Thresh in particular to make sure that they can get those hard engage champions. I think that's kind of where the holes are for XL if you actually do want to attack them in the draft, is trying to limit some of that hard engage, because XL are a very slow to set up team, and when they don't have tools that can very easily pull the trigger like Torre's Rakan, they just really get stalled out around objectives and give more time for teams to set up against them and then just punish them for their misexecutions.
Yeah, and I do feel like when you like break down and look at what XL are bringing you, you're not really going to be surprised by them a lot in draft. Like, yes, the Quinn will come out of nowhere, but the types of champions they're going to be picking are going to be very similar. So I think if teams were to, you know, focus down and be like, let's hit this, there are ways to do that, but I don't feel like a team has come in and been like, here's the exact plan we have to beat XL. They've just been beating them on execution.
And just a point of clarification, are you you know, looking to XL to adhere to the meta more? Are you happy with this kind of off the meta? What was the word you used? It wasn't off the meta.
I think they sit in the meta quite comfortably, save for top lane.
Safe, okay, okay. So top lane's a bit weird, but other than that, they play ball.
They will change, and I don't think at this point in the season you should change. I think you do need to stick to your guns, even if other teams have better options.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank God we've got a better option right now. We'll get rid of our ugly mugs, and instead we are approaching the finish line of LEC Summer. Every team is still in the race for playoffs, so let's see what happens as we kick off Week 7.